I still remember the exact second the room turned against her. The courtroom air was stale heavy with boredom, like everyone there had already decided how the story would end. The judge leaned back. The lawyers shuffled papers. People whispered. And then she stood up. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just stood, hands shaking slightly, voice steady enough to cut through everything else. Before you rule, she said, you should know the evidence you're missing was hidden on purpose. You could feel it then, that shift, like the ground moving under people who thought they were standing on solid truth. 8 months earlier, nobody would have believed she'd be the one to say something like that. Back then, she was just Claire, the quiet assistant. The woman people talked over in meetings, forgot to CC on emails, asked to bring coffee even though it wasn't her job. She didn't look powerful. She didn't sound important. And, honestly, that's why they underestimated her. That's why they never saw her coming. It started with a job that felt too good to be true. Private firm, impressive office, serious money. Claire needed the paycheck, so she ignored the little warning signs, the way her boss, Victor Hale, smiled without warmth, the way he corrected her in front of others, but never when they were alone. "You're lucky to be here," he told her once, half joking, half not. She laughed it off. "You know how it is. You tell yourself it's just work. You tell yourself not to be sensitive." Victor had a reputation. Brilliant strategist. Ruthless closer. The kind of man people called intimidating, like it was a compliment. He ran the place like a kingdom, and everyone knew not to cross him. Especially not Claire. Especially not the woman who didn't come from money, who didn't have connections, who still flinched every time someone raised their voice in a meeting. At first it was small things. Emails sent late at night demanding immediate responses. Files pulled from her desk without explanation. Credit for her work quietly reassigned. Then came the jokes. "You sure you can handle this?" "This might be a little advanced." People laughed. Claire smiled. She always smiled. That was her armor. But inside, something started to harden. The real problem wasn't the disrespect. It was what she noticed by accident one evening while staying late. A folder mislabeled. Numbers that didn't quite line up. Transfers routed through accounts that didn't match the contracts attached to them. Claire told herself it was nothing. She wasn't an auditor. She wasn't paid to question strategy. But once you see something off, you can't unsee it. It sticks with you. She started paying attention. Quietly. Methodically. While Victor strutted through meetings talking about integrity and excellence, Claire watched the paper trail. Late nights turned into patterns. Patterns turned into proof. Shell companies, hidden kickbacks, deals designed to fail for one party while enriching another. It was bad. Worse than bad. And suddenly, all those late-night emails made sense. All that control, all that pressure. Victor wasn't just demanding. He was scared. The moment she realized that, the fear shifted. It didn't disappear, but it changed direction. She wasn't just afraid of losing her job anymore. She was afraid of what would happen if she stayed quiet. Still speaking up felt impossible. Who would believe her Victor had lawyers on speed dial? She had student loans and a small apartment with thin walls. So she documented everything. Screenshots, backups, copies stored where no one would think to look. She told no one, not even friends, especially not co-workers. Silence was safer, or so she thought. Then came the accusation. Victor called her into his office one morning, door closing softly behind her. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "There's been a complaint," he said, fingers steepled. "About your performance. About boundaries." Claire's stomach dropped. She knew exactly what he was doing. Turning the spotlight before she could. Rewriting the story while he still controlled the narrative. By the end of the week, she was suspended pending investigation. Her name dragged through whispers. Her work questioned. Her character dissected. That's when the anger finally caught up to the fear. Sitting alone in her apartment staring at the wall, Claire realized something simple and terrifying. If she stayed quiet now, this was how the story would end. She would be the problem. He would walk away clean, and everything she'd seen would disappear with her. So she filed the report. Not internally, externally. regulatory agencies, financial oversight boards, anyone who would listen. The backlash was immediate. Lawsuits, threats. Victor's lawyers painted her as unstable, vindictive, incompetent. Online comments followed. People love tearing down women who dare to speak, especially when they don't look like heroes. Claire read them anyway. Every word burned. Every word fueled her. The investigation dragged on. Months of waiting. Months of doubt. There were days she wanted to quit, to settle, to just make it stop. But then she'd open her files again, see the numbers, remember the truth. This wasn't about revenge. It was about accountability. It was about refusing to be erased. The courtroom day came quietly. No cameras, no dramatic build-up. Just another case on a crowded docket. Victor sat across from her, calm, confident, nodding to people who still believed in him. When his lawyer spoke, it sounded convincing, polished, logical. Claire's hands shook as she waited, and when her turn came, she stood. She didn't yell, she didn't beg. She told the story the way it actually happened. Step by step, file by file. She showed the hidden accounts, the altered contracts, the emails sent at 2 a.m., threatening her job if she didn't comply. She described the culture of fear, the way silence was rewarded, the way questioning was punished. The judge leaned forward. The room grew still. For the first time, Victor stopped smiling. When the ruling came weeks later, it wasn't just a win. It was a collapse. Charges filed. Assets frozen. Investigations expanded. Victor's empire unraveled faster than anyone expected. And Claire. She didn't walk out triumphant. She walked out exhausted, relieved, changed. People started calling her brave, a hero. She didn't feel like either. She felt like someone who had been pushed too far and finally pushed back. The victory didn't erase what she'd been through. It didn't give her back the night she'd lost sleep or the trust that had been broken. But it gave her something else. Her voice. Her name. Her story told on her terms. Now, here's the part people argue about. Some say she should have stayed quiet, that she ruined lives, that she should have handled it internally. Others say she didn't go far enough, that the system still protects men like Victor more than people like her. Claire hears it all. She doesn't respond to most of it, because she knows something those arguments miss. Silence always costs someone. It just depends on who you decide it should be. So I'll ask you this. If you were in her place, really, in it, not watching from a safe distance, what would you have done? Stayed quiet and survived, or spoken up and risked everything? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know where you draw the line between safety and justice. And if you've ever seen something wrong and felt too small to say anything, maybe this story is your reminder that being underestimated can be a kind of power. If this hit you like the video, subscribe for more stories like this and keep the conversation going.